We are live at Sia Nejad Sports. It's a Friday afternoon, so everybody should be in a really good mood. I'm in a really good mood because coming off Greg Ducharme and the coach, we have an unbelievable guest. She's unbelievable to me, and I'm trying to get her to blush because you really are. It's Pamela Maldonado at Pamela M35. Pamela, I am really fascinated by you, and it's for reasons that I don't think people realize. And it's a lot of it is your fitness competitions and things like that, but it's also just your growth from being a poker player to being a betting analyst across numerous sports and being really, really good at it. I think there are so many things you do. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Oh man, that's so nice. You are already making me blush, and we're 2 seconds in. But I told
Perfect.
you, you said let's do 30 minutes. I said let's make it a whole 5 hours. Like let's just get down and dirty, get to know me because you don't really get this side of Twitter personalities, of sports personalities, of you just see, oh, a check mark here and a money bag there, but like who is the person behind the sports bets? Like you really want to know. I want to know. That's why I'm on Twitter. That's why I'm on Instagram because I myself am trying to get more engagement with some of these people that I follow that influence me. So I'm an open book. Have at it.
So that's the thing. And thank you for saying that. That's the thing is I think people in this space, in our space, we sort of get relegated or boxed into are they good at this sport or are they not good at this sport? Are they trending in the right direction with their bets or are they not? And it's kind of like that's okay if that's who you want to be. But I think people like yourself, and I know this for a fact, I know that people like yourself and people like myself have so much more to offer and so much more to potentially be listened to. And that is the whole reason why I'm doing this Sia Nejad Sports website and interview series, because I want people to understand two things: that Pamela Maldonado has more to offer than just her picks, and that Pamela Maldonado, among others who I will be interviewing or who I have already interviewed, have something to offer to the person about maybe achieving their goals. That maybe some of the things that we talk about today can be translated into whoever's listening now or later. Hey, maybe I can adopt that. Maybe I can take that work ethic or that practical skill or that practical tool and incorporate it in a short or long-term goal that I want to achieve. So that's why you're here, Pamela.
That is such a beautiful statement. And I love that you say that because that's exactly why I keep my DMs open. Because I daily get questions about how did you break into the industry? What can I do to break into the industry? I have a fitness question. I'm overweight and I want to lose a couple of pounds before the summer hits. I have a wedding to prepare for, fitness related. I have health related, every aspect of like, hey, I'm going through a really tough time. And the amount of questions and inquiries that I actually get of I'm going through a really tough time in my life and you seem to be somebody that's very open to these types of conversations. Can I talk with you about it? 100%. I am keeping myself as an open book because there are so many people out there who are going through the ups and downs of what sports betting is. It's not just all fun and games. You can lose a lot of money if you're not doing it correctly. They're struggling in life, and this is why I say I'm going through hell right now. I have 5 days of no power in Austin and it is messing me up mentally. Like as much as I want to talk about sports, I am also talking about my personal life because if there's anything that I am going through or have gone through that can help somebody else, mistakes I've made in the past, let me help you not make those mistakes. I
Right.
love this conversation already.
No, I mean, that's the thing. And I keep my direct messages open as well. And I got to tell you, just from starting this, like we started our interview series, Pamela, last week, as you may know, with Greg Ducharme. And then the coach at the Coach Rules was just a couple of days ago. Since that time, I have gotten so many direct messages from so many people that were either asking for help or wanted to bounce something off me or just compliment me or compliment the interview series itself. There's a guy, Tom, I'm not going to say his full tag, but he literally just messaged me like, Pamela, 10 minutes ago. And I'm just going to read part of it because I think it's applicable to what we're talking about. He says, it's remarkable how you and I are in totally separate stages of our lives, work in different industries, yet the content is so dead on applicable.
Oh.
That's literally music to my ears. I want to like put that to music because it shouldn't be applicable to only somebody with my background or your background. The stuff we talk about should be applicable to every single person who's going to take the time to watch or listen. And so that's that's sort of what the goal is. And when I get direct messages like that, and I've gotten other ones, Pamela, similar to the ones you referenced, that are like, I'm going through some struggles. Basically without asking, they're basically saying, can you help me? And I'm
Right.
happy to do that. I'm happy to offer my guidance. I'm not always right. And Pamela, I'm sure you're not always right, but we have perspective from our own lives and maybe some other lives that where we've mentored people or given advice, and we've seen how that has played out. So,
Right.
okay, Pamela, without further ado, there are a few people, maybe one in the universe, that isn't completely up to speed with who you are. So
Okay.
I wanted you to maybe just take me through your background. We discussed it the other day. I know you have a poker background, which I have as well. I think we're going to shoot to maybe both play in the World Series of Poker main event. I know you have yet to tackle that. I tackled it in 2018, cashed, just saying.
Let me throw it out there.
Let me throw it out there. You poker. Obviously, you're a betting analyst, and you will talk about the sports you cover, and then of course the bodybuilding and competing, fitness competitions. I think is really interesting. But just tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of that trajectory, those things that you've tackled.
Yes. So where do I begin? Okay, so dating back to like college, everything my entire life was on going to the lawyer route. And then my last year of college, I decided, nope, this is not what I want to do. I was like, literally the last semester, I told my parents, gave them heartbreak, never gonna happen. Oh, that was heartbreak number two. And I'll tell you, there's a question that you have later that I'll go ahead and reference. But so after college, I kind of didn't really have a plan. And so if you look at my resume, it's a whole but can I cuss? It's a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah,
It
you
was
can cuss.
like there's not really a route to anything. It was kind of a little bit of here, a little bit of there, went into education, went into the oil industry, kind of all over the place because I'm trying to figure myself out as one should be doing when they're in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But I met my guy when I was in 2010, and he was working in construction, and it was right in 2011 when the poker industry, online poker, went kaput. It just like it
Mm-hmm.
became illegal online in the States. And he had been playing professional poker. Well, not professional, but he had been playing heavily online for many years. And he was like, well, let's go to Vegas. I said, sure, well, why not? I quit my job with absolutely no plan in mind, just knowing that if you are going to be a poker player, then let me get into poker media. And so
Mm.
I reached out to literally one company, and it was pokernews.com. And I said, I have no experience, but I know the game. I've been playing all my life. My guy's a professional. He teaches me everything. Everything he knows, he's taught me. Let me work with you in some facet. And I joined them as a intern, getting paid zilch for a few months. This is post college as an intern, and this is unheard of. And it was in 2011 when the economy was complete garbage, and
Mm.
Vegas was actually it ranked at the time. It was 50th of 50 states with the worst economic. We had done all the research. We're very planned oriented people, and it was the worst economic state in the country at the time. And I went in just complete deep dive of like, great, I have no plan, but I'm going to figure it out. And I know I'm resourceful. I know that I'm strong. I've been in this position before. I was in the oil industry when it was in 2008 during the crash. So I'm very much aware of what it means to hit rock bottom. So I was not scared. I was actually excited.
Mm-hmm.
Very fortunate that Poker News took me on as an intern. Didn't take much long after for them to hire me on as an editor, a writer, and then it just kind of spiraled into I'm doing everything. I was a Swiss Army knife of everything for Poker News. Got into social media. I was doing interviews, video content, written content, graphic content. I'm into graphic design and just kind of everything. Traveled to a lot of places because of the tournaments that we were covering. So I've become friends with a lot of the big time name players in the industry, in the professional poker players. And then it was a couple of years after the fact where I was just doing poker all the time. And I don't think people understand that when I said I was doing poker, I was literally doing poker. I woke up and I was like working for poker media, and then I was playing poker at night, and then I thought that it would be fun to become a poker dealer, so then I would do that from 4 to 11 a.m. So I was working two jobs for a really long for like a couple of years because I was like, I know the game so well. Let me just become a dealer. And I was at Bellagio Poker, which is one of the biggest, well-known poker rooms in America, in the world. And so I would interview these guys during the day and I would deal to them at night. And so that was a bit of an experience. We're talking about the big names. And my life was just consumed with poker. My guy was a professional poker player, so our date nights were playing poker at the Wynn at the Aria Friday night, Saturday night, and I was like, I need something that's not poker. And I was always talking football during the football season. I'm born and raised in Texas. I know the Big 12 like the back of my hand. And so I would tell I'm the only chick on a poker table, either dealing, either playing. And I just start spewing facts and to be spewing names. And they're like, "Do you bet?" I was like, "I don't." It's right there. It's literally right there. Walk
Right
10
there.
steps, make a bet as to everything that you're talking about. I did, and I've been hooked ever since. And
Now, let me ask you something. When you started making those bets, and I want to backtrack, I have a couple poker questions for you as
yeah.
well. But when you made that step to bet, were you on Twitter yet at this point?
Yes, I was on Twitter, but because of poker. So a lot of
Okay.
the people, my following that I had was from the poker industry. So I was doing basically what I'm doing now. I didn't know that it was years in the making of putting together this resume. It was a hobby. It was I am taking my Texas Longhorns, whatever, to cover this game, and here's the reason why. I was always tweeting, always giving a reason, and I have professional poker players who are following me, and they would tell me the next day, "Oh, good bet, like I hit," and these are professional poker players, so they're betting way more than I am. So
And
then I knew
they're
early on.
generally pretty sharp, right? I mean, these are
Yeah,
sharp. Yeah.
exactly. So I knew almost immediately that, like, okay, what I'm doing is pretty good because these people are trusting me and they're betting like 100 times more than what I'm betting. I was over here betting a few dollars. They're over here putting a couple dimes. So
Mhm.
it's just, you become really acclimated to that's what they do. They have that bankroll. I'm still building. And so it became serious for me really early on just because I knew the demographic of followership that I have had early into my career.
So let me ask you a couple poker questions because I'm curious. It sounds like you've gotten to know a lot of like big time players, and you don't live in Vegas now. You live in Texas, right? Or
Correct.
correct?
I
Okay,
lived in Vegas for 5, 7 years. I can't even remember anymore.
gotcha.
For a really long time. And then I moved here to Austin a few years ago. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so give me some poke because when I was at the World Series, I was around. I didn't play with any like really big time players. They were just like around me, like Daniel Negreanu, Antonio Esfandiari. When we hit the cash, he was basically right next to me, but I was a little too shy to say anything to him because, whatever. We're both Iranian, so I probably had that connection with them. But long story short, I'm curious: are there any poker players that you got to know that maybe whether it's the poker world or the world at large, they don't really know anything about them that are just like such great people, such great guys? Maybe like two names, or maybe like super interesting that you got to know?
Well, I will say about Daniel Negreanu that who he portrays himself to be is exactly who he is in person,
I
and
figured.
that's the only thing that you can ask for when you actually meet. What do they say? Never meet your heroes because you're always disappointed.
Right.
I won't say anything negative about certain people, though I do have stories.
I'm
But I
sure.
will say that Daniel Negreanu was exactly who he was, and so he is that bubbly person, that wide personality. He gave everyone time. You want an autograph, he will take it. You want a picture, he will give it. Like, he was so personable in that aspect. Ronnie Barda is also another player. He was one of the players who he what was his record? He cashed in the main event for like 6 years straight. So that's absurd. But
That's
he is one of
amazing.
like the nicest human beings on the planet. I mean, there's literally so many players that I can name, like almost everybody, and there's so many up and coming players now. But I would say that the older players, the ones that we like grew up watching on like high stakes poker. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I already know who you're talking about. I almost don't want to mention it because I don't want to put you on the spot. But I'm just so you know, and I'm not asking you to blink twice if I'm right, but I'm thinking of like Mattisau, Phil Hellmuth, like.
Oh, I love Mattisau actually. He's
Oh,
such a
you do?
bro.
Okay, fair enough. That's who I
Yeah,
was thinking of when you said that.
he follows me. He's one of the people that follows me for my bets, and he just asked me recently. He's like, "Are you taking?" He's like, "Who do you like for the Super Bowl?" And I was like, "I know exactly why you're asking because you want me to say the Chiefs so that way you can fire on the Eagles." And it was exactly right. And so hopefully Mattisau chose correctly. Mike, if you're watching.
I was going to say, Mike, if you're watching, I'm sorry for that slip up. For some reason, your name popped into my head, but I love watching. I actually watched him on a high stakes poker game like 2 weeks ago because a friend of mine from Fort Lauderdale was out in LA playing at the Hustler Casino, a high stakes game, and Mattisau was in it. So, anyway, A fan of all those guys, to be
But
honest
I
with
will
you.
say, like, whether the for poker in general, every single person that you meet, it's no different than life. There's going to be some people that you click with. There's going to be some people that you kind of combat with, but you can still learn from everybody, the good
Yeah.
and the bad. You kind of learn the type of personality that you want to kind of replicate, the type of personality that you maybe don't want to be. But I feel like every person that comes into contact into your life, whether it's from the work industry, whether it's just personal down the road, down the street, you're at the gym, I mean, there's something to learn from everyone. So if you really want like a hard knocks lesson in life, get into poker because it was like poker literally changed my life
Yeah.
for financially, for having like a strong mind, a strong heart, strong dedication, strong will. Like it was just like every life lesson that you can tick off your box came from poker.
Yeah, I mean, and poker can break you, just like sports betting to some degree, but poker especially, I think can break you, and you kind of have to be able to like take a step back and have some perspective. You know what I mean? Like I've been in tournaments. I live in South Florida. When I first moved here, which was many years ago, I'd go to the Hard Rock and play some tournaments, and I got humbled real quick. And it's just one of those things you got to bounce back and know that that's what happens in poker
And
sometimes.
if you
So,
really want a hard lesson in life, be a dealer. Be a
oh,
dealer,
interesting.
and you will learn real quick. When they say you have to have a heart of stone, oh, you learn real fast exactly what that means. Some of my best experiences and worst experiences in life came from being a poker dealer. And it's unfortunate to say, but I mean, it's also made me who I am. It's made me a stronger sports bettor. It's made me a stronger personality. It's made me a strong woman, to be honest. Here I am in my mid 30s, and I just like largely dedicate. I was only a poker dealer for a couple of years, and who I am now has a lot to do with what those 2 years.
Just out of curiosity, is the bad part of dealing? Are you getting blamed for the bad card that comes out? Is that why it was bad, or was it something else?
Yeah, so okay, we're gonna get real deep on this here. Let's get real.
Let's do it.
Okay, so there was one incident, and of course I worked at Bellagio Poker. I forever have love to the Bellagio Poker Room because I did really well financially for those couple of years working the graveyard shift. But there was one incident where, yeah, you're dealing to some players. I won't say the stakes, I won't say the names, I won't say anything. But there was one incident where I was berated to the point of tears in person. Everyone saw it, and all you can do is just suck it up and eat crow because there's nobody there to defend you. Not a single person, not even the manager, not the floor guy, not the person to your left, not the person to your right. I am literally in tears, makeup running down my face because of how negative somebody was in my face yelling, and it
Wow.
was the most horrifying experience of my life. But after that day, I made it a point to say, I am never, ever, ever going to let anybody talk down to me like that again.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate that I've never been put in that situation again. But whether it was the poker industry, whether it was just that guy was having a bad night, all you can also say is that person, I hope you're living a better life now than you were then, because for somebody to treat another human being as poorly as you did, you must be really going through some rough stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
very fortunate to be in the position that I am now. And I hope that they're also doing okay. And that's all you can ask for, is everything is a learning lesson. And I learned a lot in that, on how to be an emotionally stable person, how to like control my emotions, how to and also have like empathy and sympathy
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
somebody like that. So it's like it's not me. It took a while for me to understand that it wasn't me in the moment. It wasn't that I made a mistake. It wasn't that I wasn't counting fast enough. It was that maybe you're not going through something. Maybe you're in a financial situation that you can't crawl out of. And so I'm sorry. And it was
Right.
just, I was the person that took the grunt for it. But yeah, I don't think I've ever told that story outside of like my personal circle. So like, hey, I said, we're going to get real. Let's get real.
Let's get real. I mean, I think having empathy is a lost art. I think unfortunately, I think having empathy is lost on, I would venture to say, like half of the population. And that sort of, from a having perspective standpoint, it's really hard to have perspective if you don't have empathy. That's a subject, Pamela, for like an entirely different hour long show, because I think it's so important. But I do want to, you talked about emotional strength, and I want to talk about physical strength with your bodybuilding. But I do want to ask you, because we actually have Edward in the chat, and he wants to discuss how you got into tennis. So we actually haven't touched on your betting analyst stuff. I know you're starting, or maybe not starting. I know you cover football, you cover golf, but to me, I feel like it was college football and tennis that put you on the map. Am I wrong there? How did all that happen?
I think also political betting in
Oh, that's right.
2020. In 2020, when everybody was doing like KBO baseball, I was like, you know what? I really like politics because I was already in law for many years before, so I was very familiar. And I had actually worked campaigns, so I was like, let me just get into this, and it spiraled into I was probably the only person I think that was doing political betting, especially live political betting. But so outside of that, I think political betting, the 2020 elections really also helped put me on the map with companies like Yahoo. But yeah, as far as like football, like I said, I've been born and raised in Texas, so I've been doing that all my life. It was like secondhand nature. The NFL, I did not start watching the NFL until 2016 when living in Vegas, one of my buddies was like, "Hey, I want to do the super contest. Will you be my partner?" I was like, "Bro, I know nothing about the NFL." He's like, "Yeah, but you're good at college. You're going to be fine." And I was like, so anything before 2016, I can't tell you what happened. Tony Romo, I'm sure he was good at one point. The Cowboys back in the day, I'm sure they were good. Like I
They
literally don't
weren't. They
it's
weren't.
so unfortunate, but like my NFL career didn't start until 2016, and it wasn't until the last couple of years that I've really become comfortable in betting NFL, and I have confidence with it now, and it's largely in doing these podcasts with Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, because I actually talked to her about it, and talking your thoughts out loud really help you decipher what you feel confident in. I was like, all right, I do like this bet. And then when it comes to tennis, so my guy was a professional poker player. He also played college for tennis. And so there was one day living in Vegas. I've been playing golf my whole life. So that's also like secondhand nature. That is my muscle memory. I've been playing since I was 7. But tennis, I like played when I was like in like elementary maybe, and like I never touched it again, because once you're as a golfer, you know that your coach is like, okay, no, you're focusing on golf, and that's it. We're gonna get you into this track.
Yeah.
So then we were living in Vegas, and when one of his partners like dropped out for the day, he's like, "Man, I really wanted to play." And I was like, "Well, I'll go play with you." And he's like, okay, let's try." And I was awful. Like I'm very athletic. I pride myself in being athletic. You give me any athletic task, I am going to defeat you. I sucked at tennis. Like I was so bad. And he was very comfortable with telling me how bad I was.
Oh,
He
wow.
was like, "Pam, you suck. Let's not do this again." And I was like, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I am an athlete by heart. I am very competitive." So I said, "I suck now. Make me better." And so for 6 months, legitimately for 6 months straight, we played every single day for minimum an hour. And he drilled me, and he taught me, and he gave me these scenarios. And then as I got better, he would set me up in these matches to like practice the actual playing. So that's where my love of tennis came in, is that I understood the physicality involved. I started gaining knowledge of the game sense of when to strike, when to ease back, how to do a drop shot, how to hit at the net. I learned absolutely everything. And then I blew up my back. And after 6 months, because I was also a cycling instructor and a Pilates instructor, and I was doing lifting on the side. So that in conjunction and with hiking and everything, it was too much on my body. I didn't have strength in the areas that I needed to, which is why I got into bodybuilding. But it was for 6 months straight. I hit tennis hard. I went from a complete beginner, like it was awful, to a 4-0 player, and I beat everybody that I played, and people
Wow.
got mad at me because I was like, you shouldn't be able to beat me. You've just started playing." "Yeah, but he's a really good coach, and I practiced every day." So
That work ethic, I think, is, and we're going to talk about bodybuilding next, because I think you venturing out to fitness competitions in bodybuilding, I don't think people appreciate how hard that is.
Oh,
It's not just the lifting of weights. I mean, I think that's what people think of. They're like, "Oh, I guess you have to eat right, and you got to lift weights, and in a year or 6 months, you're going to be great." So my wife competes as well, as you know, and I see it on a daily basis. I mean, the weighing of her food, the app that she uses to counter calories and all that stuff. We're going to get there in a second. But what I wanted, there was a few things you pointed out already that I think are really applicable to the people that are listening or watching. First of all, when you moved out to Vegas, you were all in on poker. And you said yes to everything. You made sure that you were going to be, quote, that Swiss Army knife, and you were going to be able to take on any task. So I think that's really important because, yeah, you took a huge risk, but you took a huge risk knowing that you are going to open yourself up to anything that comes your way, which makes you like a model employee to anybody that's going to hire you, because they know that you're willing to put whatever effort it takes in. So that's just one takeaway. The other thing with betting, so people, this is what we talked about a couple of days ago with Coach. I think to get into this industry or a lot of other industries, you can't really be conventional. You can if you're the best. You can if you're really good. But if you're not the best, and so few people are, you got to be different. You got to be able to separate yourself, be unique. And so here you are with political betting. You said it yourself. You were like the only person doing political betting. And I think that's something that's lost on people too. Like, what can I get in that's going to be different? Not necessarily with sports betting, but how can my show be different from everybody else's? How can I present myself different from everybody else? The other thing, and this I think segues so nicely into bodybuilding, is you sucked at tennis, Pamela, but you told your coach, make me better. Like, people don't do that. It's so easy. It's so easy to do that, or at least ask for the help. But most people would just be really discouraged, be like, yeah, he's right. I do suck at tennis. I'm going to go back to golf. I'm going to go back to this or that or whatever it is, whether it's physical or otherwise. So the fact that you were able to like say that to yourself and your coach and give your coach the confidence that he was going to be able to teach you and you were actually going to want to learn and get better, it's huge. Like, those are like such easy, practical things for people to internalize and be like, okay, maybe when I'm in those situations, maybe I don't say that stuff to myself. Maybe I don't make those promises to myself that I will get better, that I will find something different. I just absolutely love that. And Pamela,
I love that. And like you're saying, you're repeating that, and I'm like, you're right. Like, you have to become vulnerable to your vulnerabilities, because like I know that I'm an athlete. I know that I am strong as fuck when it comes to like every aspect of my life. But I lacked in this one area, which tells me I'm still not as good as I can be. And that's what that's the point of like life, is you wake up today and say, how can I be better for tomorrow? And then you do that every day after. And that's how you get to where you want to be. And I think that's what's lost in this generation of younger folks, is that everything is so easily accessible on your phone. I have a tablet. My girlfriend has 2 phones. I'm like, why do you have 2 phones? I'm just like, I don't understand. But there's like, everybody, it's so accessible in your hands that they forgot what it's actually to like physically work hard for something where you're literally bleeding for your body. I literally broke my body trying to get better at a sport just so I could have the person across from me say that I don't suck anymore. I wanted him to be like, holy heck, that was competitive. Was I able to beat him? No, this dude's been playing 20 years and he played in college. I know I'm not able to beat him, but at least I was able to rally with him, and I made him better because I was able to. I'm like Nadal out there on the court. I'm getting every ball, and I'm like, no, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that up at the net, back at the baseline. So like now I'm having to make him work. So I did challenge him. So that was like the point of it. I'm not trying to beat him. I'm just trying to make him better. And in turn, he's making me better. Like, that's the whole point. Are you getting better at what it is you're trying to accomplish?
And you have to understand, to your point, it might take a while. So what you said about the smartphones and iPads and just things being really easily accessible, what else is accessible is the quick turnaround stories that we might see on social media and be like, oh my God, this person got rich in a month or 2 months, or they had this amazing idea and they put it in play right away and look at them now. Like, that's not really reality. That's the 1% who get lucky or are just super hyper smart and they just kind of figured it out for like in a way that I would never comprehend. The reality is most people.
And it also works in towards like the industry now. Like, I think it doesn't happen often, but some of the things that you'll see as a remark of, oh, like you're at Yahoo, it's because you're a chick or whatever. And I'm like, you actually don't understand. I've been working years for this. I didn't know that I was working years for this. Like I said, I was in poker and it became a hobby, but it was through my hobby that this became a career and it became a passion. But I've been working at this indirectly for years, and it started back in like 2012 that I've been posting my plays. I've been keeping a record, and it was because of those record keeping, and you can go back to my Twitter account and find them. I had back-to-back 70% seasons, and it was because of that that record, that transparency, that reasoning, that I built up a followership through that. And then that's how word of mouth came. And then and then it led into working with an offshore with a company called Oddshark. And so it was like
Mm.
years in the making. I didn't just like wake up one day and was like, oh, pop, I'm gonna work with Yahoo. Like
Right.
it took time. And here I am. Here we are in 2022. I've indirectly been doing this since 2012, 2013, and I didn't get with Oddshark until 2018. Yeah, it's taken time, and people all they see is what's physically right in front of them, your Twitter account, your Instagram. Oh, you're on article here, but they don't see like the years of work behind the picture of like I wake up. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a very disciplined person. I'm a Taurus also. I am up every day at 5:36 a.m. I do my steps, I do my cardio. I am very disciplined and regimented. So like
Mhm.
I have a set schedule for me daily in the off season, during football, when it's tennis season. I am the only person who up at 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. watching Australian Open tennis. What are you doing? You're sleeping. Like
Mhm.
there's a whole other aspect to this that people don't see. And then yeah, that just tells me also that I need to do a better job of portraying that information to you. Let me do it like a day in the life of, and let me show you that, yeah, I'm up at 5:30 a.m. I'm getting my steps. By the time you wake up, I've already had one meal, walked 10,000 steps, did 30 minutes of cardio, already prepped my checklist for the day, and you're still in bed. Like that's kind of like the difference of like not me versus them, but like those who want to get into something. Here is a way that you can do it. Start
Yeah.
building out a plan and get when everybody else is sleeping, get up earlier and get ahead of the day because those are going to be the ones that find themselves in a better position later down the road.
Right, and it's not like when in 2012 you were like, "My goal is Yahoo." Like, you
Yeah,
work hard and you end up your goals, your destinations end up shifting because you put in work, you meet people, people recognize you, your work ethic, all of those things, and then boom, you're in a great place that you may have not envisioned in the first place. But the point is, in the first place, you were putting in the work. You were putting in the
exactly.
time, you were meeting people, you were making the connections. I absolutely love that. So let's transition finally to bodybuilding and competing. So I just gave you a very like rudimentary couple sentences of what I see with my wife and when she competes. Can you just kind of tell everybody? I mean, I think it would take like literally like 20 minutes for you to explain what you go through to compete and prep and cut downs and all of that stuff. But is there a way for you to embody that in a couple minutes so people really appreciate what that grind is like?
All right, let me try. Let me try. Okay. So it is a very disciplined hobby. I'm gonna say hobby. I'm not a professional bodybuilder. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm not an IFBB pro. I just started bodybuilding in 2019 because the reason why I got into it in the first place, it's important for me to tell that story first. The
Mhm.
reason why I got into it was because there was one point in my life. I've been playing golf since I was 7. There was one point in my life where I was told, "You're never going to play golf again. I'm sorry. You need back surgery. I need to
Mm.
correct your spine." Because I was an actual L, I could not stand upright for a solid month. I needed assistance going to the restroom. I needed assistance to shower. My back was so jacked and I was so shattered in every part of my body. Walking hurt, getting up a stair hurt. I couldn't do a
Yeah.
body weight squat. I was 27 years old and I couldn't even walk downstairs. I That's horrendous. And
Wow.
so instead of the story that I like to say is because it's always pay attention to what the world is trying to tell you because you might miss
Mhm.
something. And it was Steve Kerr. He had just come back from his back surgery, and it was his first game back. First off, I don't watch basketball ever, like ever. After Tony Parker and Monty Ginobili and the big three, after they retired, I stopped watching basketball. But he came back, and it was a flipped on the TV, and I was like, you know what? Steve Kerr's back. Let me see what he has to say. And he had just come back from a surgery, and literally the only thing that he said was, if you need any type of corrective surgery on your spine, on your back, do not do it. It was the biggest
Wow.
mistake that I had in my life. I regret it. Please don't get it done. Find alternative methods. My surgery was set for the very next day.
Wow.
And I was like, that's a sign.
Mhm.
And so I texted my doctor right that moment. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm too young. I'm 27 years old. There has to be a different way. And so I went to acupuncture. I went into medicinal. I was living in Vegas. I went into medicinal marijuana, and there was just other aspects. And I was like, you know what? I know that the reason why I have a bad back is because I've been playing golf my entire life. I've been told that a million times. And I am weak in the areas that I need to be strong at. And that was your core, glutes, and hamstrings. And that was purely the only reason why I got into bodybuilding, was because I needed to get stronger in those areas. So I went from not being able to even do a body weight squat at 27 years old to right now I am 35 and I just did a 300-pound deadlift. That is 8
Wow.
years. And this is a perfect, you want the synopsis? Here it is. You want the Cliffs Notes? This is it. This is 8 years in the making of patience, dedication, and just like belief that you can really get something done if you give yourself the time for it. People
Yeah,
want the quick fix.
I was going to say, of those 3 elements, to me, the most important one that's lost on pretty much everybody is the patience part, right?
Absolutely. People want the quick fix. That's why you see things like there's you can drink this tea and you're gonna lose 10 pounds. It's just tea. It's
Yeah.
water. It's hot water that has a little bit of flavor. It's not gonna do anything. But I mean, and it did. It was a progression. I went from not being able to do a body weight squat to doing a body weight squat to being on a BOSU ball to doing dumbbell squat to doing A, B, and C. Like I climbed the ladder, and it wasn't always like a steady progression. Like yeah, I threw out my back twice. I was in competition in 2019. At some point, I was like, well, I'm doing all this hard work. Let me like put it to use. So I thought the competition would be cool. 2019, midway through competition, threw out my back again because I still wasn't as strong as I needed to be, but I
Mm.
was building up towards it. So it pushed me back a little bit, sure, but it was still making steady progressions. But people no longer have the patience for anything anymore. They want something done now, they want something tomorrow. So that's why you get a lot of emails from people who are like, hey, what job openings do you have? Well,
Mhm.
that's the wrong way to approach things. So instead of saying, what can you do for me? It should be, here is everything that I can do for you.
Oh my
Let me
god,
start
so
from the
perfect.
bottom. Let me work for it. Let me get to the top. And you may start as an intern like I did, but you can eventually work your way up. But people don't want that anymore. They want the quick fix. No, I want that Yahoo job now. I want to be at Bleacher Report now. I want to be at Barstool now. I have all this content. Cool. Keep creating until somebody recognizes you. I want to lose 20 pounds in 1 month. That is so hard to do. Can you do it?
Mhm.
Sure. But you're going to fall off the wagon after and gain so much more.
Mhm.
Give yourself a year to lose 20 pounds. And that way you're going to hold it off and you're going to get better as you progress. I mean, just things like that. I think it's people just forget patience in anything is number one.
Yeah, I totally agree. The discipline though that it takes, especially down the stretch of the actual competition. Can you describe that a little? Because I've seen it firsthand. It's rough.
So there's a reason why I don't do competitions during football season
Yeah.
because once you start getting into the nitty-gritty of it, and if you are doing multiple shows, it gets really hard there towards the end. As far as like for this year example, I did 3 competitions. I did July, August, and September. And for my September competition, the feedback that I kept getting was that I wasn't lean enough. So
Mhm.
I increased my cardio from like 45 minutes a day for 7 days a week. My third competition, I was doing 2 hours of cardio 7 days a week on 1,200 calories, and
That's the problem. It's the
you are
calorie intake.
still expected to be lifting as heavy as you can because that's the only way that you can maintain your muscle. So without losing your muscle, doing all of this cardio on low calories, that's where it gets really tough, not just physically, but mentally as well, because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm putting in all this effort. Is it still even good enough? You start to doubt yourself. You start to feel negative about yourself. Bodybuilding is both a beautiful and very disruptive level competition because it can really mess with your psyche of I'm never going to be good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not lean enough. I'm not built enough. I don't
Mhm.
but it also becomes like that's why I keep it as a hobby. That's why I kept poker as a hobby. That's why I keep betting as a hobby because you don't want to fall out of love with your hobbies because then it becomes work because then it becomes you start to kind of build a kind of like a resentment for it because if you don't achieve what you think you want to achieve, well, then what are you doing it for? It kind of becomes a
Yeah.
problem. But in this aspect, it helps me with discipline. It helps me stay disciplined within betting. It helps me stay disciplined within the stock market. It helps me stay disciplined in my everyday life. If I don't want to have a drink, I'm not gonna have a drink. Give me a mocktail. There's so many bars in Austin that have mocktails now. Like
Mm.
it's a thing. So it's just like it's just but yes, it gets really, really tough there. So, for example, in my second, you're doing like 12 to 16, 20 weeks of competition prep. And what that means is, as mentioned, you're still lifting the exact same. Your programs aren't really changing. You're still trying to lift as heavy as you can, doing your reps, doing your workouts, but you're doing it on lower, lower, lower calories. Your calories decrease as the months go on, as you get closer to your competition. Your cardio increases, and it just becomes just like really, really tough to do. And you're doing that for like a solid 6 weeks. So trying to do all of that. So I'm up. So during competition, for example, I was up at 5 a.m. so I could do an hour of the cardio in the morning, plus my that 10,000 steps. And then I would study for my football all during the day. And then by 3, 4 o'clock, I'm at the gym doing an hour and a half max, doing an hour and a half of lifts. And then I would do another hour of cardio, finish off my 10K steps. Sometimes my steps went up to like 15,000. So finish my steps, come home, cook, and you have to have a meal prep every day, every Sunday, so I can have food for the week. You're measuring it out. You can't really go out to places because, well, I can't eat out because
Yeah.
I don't know what are they using oils? Are they using butter? Just give me plain. And if you can't do that, well, then I can't go. You can't really socialize as much with your friends because they're all going drinking and going here. And it becomes like mentally difficult because, well, I would like to have some chips and queso. Chips and
Yeah.
salsa, but I can't because so it becomes like, oh, I'm just gonna sit there and watch you have fun while I am being disciplined, or I pack a little salad so I can eat. And then you can't really plan last minute things like, oh, it's 4th of July weekend, let's all go out. That's great. Let me pack my meals for the day. Hold on,
Hmm.
give me a couple of hours because I have to pack my 5 meals. I have to pack my water intake. You have to hit your certain water. You have to hit certain sodium. So it's a very precise, hit your macros, complete 100% of your lifts, 100% of your cardio, 100% of your steps every single day. And if you're in a relationship, oh, it becomes that much more difficult because it's
Yeah.
not only you that's in competition, so is your partner because they now have to plan around your schedule of, okay, I know you're doing 2 hours of cardio. I can't plan this. We can't go to a movie just on a whim. You can't ever do anything spontaneous. You have to plan. So
Hmm.
2022, the entire year mostly, because I started competition prep. I started dieting down in January, started my prep in March, and I finished my last competition was it's the first weekend in September. That's 9 months of disciplined work. And it doesn't just stop after the competition is done, because after that, you're doing a build up back into your calories. So instead of 1200, now I'm at 1300, and then I go up to 1400, and then I go up to 1600. And then the cardio goes from 2 hours to an hour and a half to an hour and 15 minutes. So you're staying diligent on your plan even after because you're trying to maintain as much of that leanness as possible. So you're coming out of your deficit. And so it becomes a whole thing.
So it's funny because like you have a job, you work for Yahoo, you have a job that plays mental games on you because me and you are in the betting space, and that can really have a lot of different swings emotionally and financially. And what you decided to do was take on another job, and that's exactly what it is, in my
Oh, yeah.
opinion. And that job that you picked up probably takes more discipline than what you were already doing, and probably plays more of a mental game with you than what you were already doing. And so
Absolutely.
this is why, Pamela, I thought you were such a perfect guest, because most people wouldn't take that on given what they were already doing. And I just think it's a really good example for people to be like, people who are like, well, I really don't want to wake up 20 minutes early. Well, Pamela's telling me to have a plan. And maybe, Greg Ducharme told me last week, you got to write it down and hold yourself accountable to
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I don't think I have time to do that stuff. And it's like, no, man, no, whatever. Like you have time. Like you have time to do those things. You're just making excuses. You just
Yeah.
can't do that.
And I'm an early person. After like 3 o'clock, my brain starts to falter. So if I don't get my work done before then, I know I have to wake up earlier in order so I can produce my best self for Yahoo early in the day. and that way I can keep my physical for later in the day. So there
Mhm.
was times during competition where it's like, oh my gosh, I still have 30 minutes of cardio left. Well, let me go down to the gym at 10 o'clock at night and get it done. Let me go to my apartment gym and get in my 5,000 steps that I still need. But it's, you have time, it's just a choice.
Yeah.
Everything is a choice. You can scroll on Instagram for 30 minutes, or you can go walk outside for 30 minutes, listen to a podcast. I read a lot of books and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And my time to do that is when I'm getting my steps in the morning. I catch up on all of my podcasts in the mornings. And even when I'm doing my steps in the afternoon, I'll put a book up on the treadmill and I'll read like that. And it's just, that's how you get things done. And there's actually photos that I've posted. One of the things that I love to study is Warren Sharp's NFL preview every year. And it's this big giant book. I have it right next to me. It's this
Oh
big,
my God, all those tabs.
look how thick this book is.
Yeah.
And what do I do? I know that I need to get, it was during competition because puts it out in July. I have my competition in August and September. So I have on the cardio this thing and my highlighter. And that is how I can knock out two birds with one stone. I'm
Yeah.
walking fairly slow at like 2.8, 3.0, short incline. So it's nothing that's strenuous. I can still read, still get this done. And by the time I get home, I'm ready to knock out some content. So everything is just a choice. It's about organization skills. You have to be organized, you have to be disciplined, and you just have to be smart with your time. There's a lot of ways that you can distribute it, but it's just like how you save time for your everything. That's where like the magic happens.
Yeah. So it's funny because I see all those tabs and I'm like, Pamela, you didn't go to law school, but you went to law school because that's what we. You may know this. I'm an attorney, and I went to school, law school at University of Richmond, practiced for 13 years and change. And you just reminded me of law school with that Warren Sharp book. So
Mhm.
that's what it looks like. I think, Pamela, you made the right decision. I have a couple more questions with you if you have a few
Yeah.
more minutes with me. What is one, because you're very accomplished in my opinion. We talked about a lot of the stuff you've tackled. What is something you haven't tackled that maybe is a future goal for you?
So personal wise, I think I do want to get my pro card within bodybuilding. It's something that I've dabbled with. Like I'm 35 years old, and it becomes tougher once you get older. But
Hmm.
I've literally only like this was my first 2022 was my first full season of bodybuilding competitions. I did three in a row, and before that, I had only done one back in 2019, and then the pandemic happened. I think I've done really well with the coach that I have now, and I'm really in a point where I think that mentally, I think that I can do this, I can accomplish this, and I would really like to give it a try. So I've been continuing on the path of building in the areas that I need to, which is my upper body. Actually, go figure. I went to nationals and I was the smallest person. I
Hmm.
won a competition in Vegas, and then I got 11th out of 12th in the competition after because that was nationals because I had the smallest upper body physique compared to everybody else. So I that's been the area of focus as of late. I don't know when another competition will come. I'm not in a rush for it. It's whenever I feel like you have to be mentally prepared for it. You have to be
Yeah.
ready to go all in, and that's not me right now. So if it happens in 2024, if it happens maybe after July, and I think that I can end up balancing football season with this, then I might give it a go. We'll see what happens. But I would like to get, personally, I would like to get my bodybuilding IFBB pro card. Professional wise, I don't really think I have like a set goal right now for professional. I think it's just I want to be known. I don't think I've ever said this out loud to people. So listen up because I'll probably never say it again. I want to be known I want I want to be the person that people are like, what is Pam betting? I need to know. I
Mm.
absolutely need to know. Like I trust her. And actually I got a glimpse of that recently. Somebody sent me a gift card, and it was very, very generous. I won't say the amount of it. It was to one of the stores here in Austin. But he said, out of everybody that I saw online, everybody was on the Eagles, and you were the only person that was on the Chiefs. I
I was on
trust
the
you.
Eagles.
He was like, I trust you. I went with you. And he showed me his slip. He put something like 10 grand on it. And I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And he was like, if they win, I would like to gift you with this. He's like, because you've been like really great for my bankroll this year through PGA, through ATP tennis, and then now especially in the NFL. I had a really great NFL season. So for the fact that somebody put his entire trust in me because of my analysis, because of how I deliver things, man, that really like made me feel good of like, I think that is my goal. I want that to happen 100 times over. Whether it's in the PGA, whether it is with ATP, whether it's in the NFL, I want people to be like, I want them to wake up and be like, what does Pam have to say I
Yeah.
need to know before I place my wager? I want to be the go-to person for that. Maybe not
Well,
in if it happens in football, great, but especially for ATP and for PGA, I really want to solidify myself into those industries. And then, yeah, I think that's like really only professional goal that I have is like I want people's trust. I
yeah. Well, you were off to a really good start, PGA wise, with a Max Homa first round leader from yesterday, which I had as well. So we were able to celebrate that together on Twitter. By the way, when you say upper body that you needed to improve, what does that mean? Like shoulders, buys? What are we talking?
yeah.
Everything?
So I don't
Can
know
we
if you.
see a buy shot? Can we do like a
Oh,
group
okay, we're gonna do
buy
that.
shot real quick? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
have like so
That's solid. I love it.
I do like I'm like oh, there you go.
There we go. We're straight. Okay. I
I mean,
love
yeah,
it.
you're pretty big, but it's not really biceps. It's the when it comes to the women's bikini, it becomes the shoulders. So you're looking for the rounded out shoulders
That's right. Yep.
and the delts, and I didn't really have any. it was
Gotcha.
I was very glute dominant, is what my coach told me, and so I'm trying to. You when it comes to bikini, you're looking for that X frame. So you want the wide shoulders to give you the perception of a small waist, and then accentuate the glutes. And so like I have a back and I had the glutes. I was missing the shoulders. So we're building up on that. So I work on shoulders 3 days a week as opposed to most women who do glutes 3 days a week. Right now I'm doing
Yeah.
shoulders 3 days a week.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I've heard that talk from my wife as well in terms of the shoulder, that kind of popping right here.
Hmm.
That's obviously like really critical. It's really interesting. We have a question. I have just two more questions for you, but we have a question in the chat. I think this is really applicable to you because maybe both of us, but because you've kind of immersed yourself in a lot of different things, a lot of different sports. It's from Eric David. He says, "My son is a high school athlete, football, shot put, discus. Thoughts on specializing on one sport versus playing multiple sports? Also, how important is it to get downtime to recover both mind and body?"
Ooh.
Any thoughts
Okay.
on that?
Yes. So we'll start first with where to put a focus on. So when I was in high school, one of the things that so I was the only freshman to make my varsity basketball team. I was playing tennis and I was playing golf. My coach for tennis literally kicked me off the team. My coach for basketball literally kicked me off the team and says, "You're not going to get a scholarship for either one of them. You can get a scholarship for golf." So they kicked me off. I didn't have a say in it. I cried like a baby, and they're like, "Get over it. You're doing golf." So, yes, it's really important to kind of put your focus onto one because that is going, and you want to put your focus on something. I've heard, and this is kind of crazy, but I've heard like one of the best sports to get into if you want your child to get into the Ivy Leagues is not football, is not tennis, is something like fencing. The
Uh-huh.
scholarships that are available in something like fencing are through the roof right now for Ivy League schools. So
Hmm.
yes, it's very important to specialize. It's like it's no different than getting into betting. I was the only person that was doing political betting. That's a very niche market, and I was very successful at it, and it helped build my name. Think of it the same way as far as building up a scholarship opportunity. What is going to be your best opportunity down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, to get your child into a great school? And it doesn't even have to be an Ivy League. It doesn't have to be the Alabama, the Texas. If you can get
Hmm.
them a full ride to like a division, a D3 school, it's about the education unless they're trying to really go pro, and that your child is going to let you know early on, I want to do this professionally, or I don't, I just want to have a good degree. Listen to them, because even though they are young, I actually experienced that myself, where I had golf scholarships. And then earlier when I told you it was my parents' second heartbreak when I said I didn't want to go to law school, my parents' first heartbreak was when I told them that I didn't want to do golf in college.
Mm.
um, I declined the scholarships that I had because I knew that I didn't want to do it professionally, but I wanted to go to a good school. So, listen to your child first and foremost. They know what they want from themselves, even though they are young. And yes,
Hmm.
put your focus in as much as possible. because it's when you focus in on one, you can be good at all or you can be great at one.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? How important is rest and recovery? Number one thing. People want to go into supplements and they want to start taking these these put things in their body that they don't need. Literally the number one thing for recovery is sleep. If you are not
Mhm.
getting minimum 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, your body is not going to recuperate the way it needs. People think, let me go to the gym, let me work out, let me lift, let me do this, let me train 7 days a week. When are you giving your body time to repair? It physically needs to repair itself. You're breaking down the muscle tissues. It needs time to rebuild. So do the Epsom salt baths, do the cold plunges, whatever you think is going to help you, do the sauna sessions, and just chill. there are,
Yeah.
I sometimes work out only 4 days a week and have 3 days rest. If I know that I'm lifting heavier, and if I'm going into like the higher rep mode right now, I'm doing 5 days a week, but it's also knowing that I am giving myself the full 2 days of recovery. I literally don't do anything. I go for a walk around the lake and then I come home and I rest, complete rest. My brain is even like non functioning. When you try to do too much, you can't think. You get
Yeah.
tired. You see the bags under your eyes. You're brain fogged. So, yes, recovery and rest is so important. Literally the number one thing. If you want a pre workout, caffeine. If you want a post workout recovery, sleep.
Mhm. No, and I think that plays well into what you've sort of been preaching this entire show, which is patience. Like part of
Mhm.
being patient is knowing when to rest, is knowing when to
Yeah,
have that recovery. And again, harkening back to what we talked about earlier, part of being patient is not expecting your goal to be tackled or achieved in a week, a month, or a year. I mean, if you're
exactly.
going to work at it, and I think this is what you've kind of said without even saying it, this entire show is you got to be patient and you got to work out it and you got to have a plan and you just chip away at it, right? Am I missing
Right.
anything?
No, and I think people get misconstrued because they see all of these professional athletes. They're maybe working out 5, 6 hours a day. The Rock, you see him on his Instagram and he's in the gym like a whole 8 hours. Yeah, but he's also has like $1 million and he has like a professional chef. He has like he has like an in-home masseuse. Like they have things accessible. They're accessible. They have things accessible to them that us normal people don't. So the number one thing for us, and I do have a regimen. I go see my chiropractor minimum once a month. I get a
Hmm.
deep tissue massage. I do deep body hangs for spinal decompression.
Mm.
I mean, I do acupuncture as often as I feel like I need to. Like, there's a lot of things that I do for myself as recovery, but those are also pertained to me because I know that they work for me. I do Epsom salt baths like twice a week. So I do mobility stretches on my rest days. I'm doing mobility stretches. So there's like a lot of things that goes into it, but you have to figure out what is your sport? What are you trying to accomplish? Everything is around what are you trying to accomplish is the
Hmm.
thing. So
Yeah.
if you know what that is, then you can have a regimen to work around it. And so yes, but it always is going to be patience and rest.
Yeah. It's funny about The Rock too. He came up last show with the coach because they used to work together at the WWE. And I didn't share this story when I talked to coach, but you're talking about, showing The Rock and lifting hard and all this stuff. And I can tell you, I ran into The Rock 10 years ago at an LA Fitness in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I live now. And he, by the way, he couldn't have been nicer, but he wasn't lifting hard. Like what you see is he's not always like that guy. He was just kind of like toning up his muscles. He was going like really light. And
And that's
yeah,
like 20
again,
years in the making.
right.
What the physique that he has now, the physique that you see a lot of these bodybuilders have, there's a woman you can't ever. I think that's another problem that social media has put on people is you can't ever, 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 ever compare yourself to somebody else's journey. Everyone's journey is different. So if you
Hmm.
want to be a professional golfer and you're starting right now at 14 and you can't compare yourself to the guy that's been playing since he was 7, the guy that's been
Right.
because even the kid that's been playing since 7, there was somebody that's been playing since he was 3.
Hmm.
And they have different coaches. Like everybody has a different journey, a different path. So don't compare yourself because your journey is your own. So take it for what you have, plan it out, and be patient.
I love that. I love that so much. Let me ask you one more thing before I let you go. And this is something I ask all my guests. If you could thank 3 people for providing to you, or maybe getting you, better way to say it is getting you to where you are today, people you just like to thank because of how they've impacted your life. I'd like to leave like moms and dads out of it, because I think a lot of people kind of, they go to, you can include them if you want, but if you do, maybe you come up with like a fourth person too. But my point is, who would you like to thank, whether they're gone now or whether they're still alive? Like, who are the people that come to mind?
These are going to be more recent. So I'm going to start first with, if you listened to the pod before, Mr. Anonymous. He is basically, that's my guy. And he's the one who said, let's go to Vegas. Great.
Hmm.
He said, you sucked at tennis. Let me make it better. Great. He said, you're good at sports betting. Turn it into something that's more than a hobby. Great. He's the one who gave me my love and passion for tennis. I liked tennis before him, but it wasn't until him that I really grew an appreciation for it. Like, my God, tennis has my heart, tennis has my soul. It is the most beautiful sport on the planet. And it is in large part because he was like, I'm going to watch this match. And then I'm going to watch this match. And then, well, I started watching every match after. And now I'm telling him stories about tennis that he didn't know. So he has been just a large influence in my life when it comes to finances, when it comes to getting into the stock market, into my love of reading, into my love of sports betting. He just kind of molded me into this like independent woman that I can appreciate.
Hmm.
Also, Ebony Kenny, boo, if you're listening, she is my best friend here in Austin. Um, and she is just like a woman of divine. She is so divine. And if you want to know, like, she epitomes, she's the perfect sim. If there was ever
Hmm.
define feminism, Ebony Kenny. She
Gotcha.
is feminine in every quality, in every form, in every aspect. She bleeds. Her soul is just about like womanhood and being strong and empowered and owning your sexuality and trusting who you are as a woman and knowing your worth and your purpose. And I can go off on her. And she's given me the type of confidence that I didn't know I ever had. And it's
Awesome.
because of her that she's like trust your beauty both inside and out, trust your knowledge both inside and out, trust that people want to hear you for you and not for what you look like. And it was just, she just really gave me confidence that I never knew existed. And then
Hmm.
the third one, this one's going to be interesting because not a person,
Hmm.
it's a place, and it's Las Vegas. I 100% attribute who I am today by living in Las Vegas. It gave me a sense of purpose because before I went to Vegas, I had no idea what I was doing with my life. And I had once I got there, I had direction and I became a grinder and I knew exactly what I wanted to do and I was willing to work hard for it. And I'm a tourist, so that I've always said like you I didn't have power in Austin a couple of weeks ago. And it was like, you tell a workhorse to not work, and we have no idea what to do with ourselves. I am
Hmm.
a workhorse, and it was the city of Las Vegas is just a grind city. Everybody has 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They're grinding for something. They're hustling for something. And that was where I became the dedicated, the focused, the ambitioned, the everything. The bodybuilder, like the person who had patience, the person who had confidence and like was building up momentum and like everything, like literally everything of my life right now is solely dedicated to who I became in Las Vegas. And it gave me an appreciation for life because that's where I grew my love for hiking and for the outdoors. And I love fishing and I love hiking and I love seeing sunsets and sunrises. And the people that I have met, some of my best friends are from Las Vegas, and they're all like grinders and me. And all we do is we talk books and we talk about, and we all come from sports or we all come from poker. And it was just like, if I'd never moved to Vegas, I have no idea where I would be right now. That city saved me. That city 100% saved me and led me to who I am.
Interesting timing of that answer, because Gigi Najad has entered the chat. And I already told you, you have a lot in common with her because she is a bodybuilder and competes as well. And she lived in Vegas for 5 or 6 years. And I think she'd say the same things about Vegas in terms of kind of really finding herself and empowering herself and things of that nature. So I think that's really, really interesting. She's also just like you, loves to read books and is always, doing that and learning. And I absolutely call her a workhorse, as she says, so much in common, exclamation
And it's
point.
actually the city where I fell back in love with the game of golf. I've been playing golf since I was 7, and one of the reasons why I didn't wanna play in college was because I feared, because I had already friends who were in college playing, collegiate, I feared that if I played in college, I would lose my love and passion for the game, and one of my influencers from when I was younger was, an attorney,
Mhm.
Mr. He was actually the district attorney, Mr. Rene Guerra. When I was younger, he was 70 years old and playing golf, and I was like, and I just always envisioned, I wanna be 70 playing golf. So, when I went to Vegas, there's no better place in America for playing golf than living in Las Vegas, and I
Mhm.
played every single course, and I got better, and that was the course where I was playing twice a week. I was practicing to the point where I was even like, maybe I can go into the amateur level, and maybe right now after bodybuilding, that can still be in a something, a goal to work for, because
Yeah.
I think I still have it. But it was also Daniel Negreanu. He gave me his. I asked him for his coach once I knew that I was leaving Las Vegas. I asked him. I was like, "Who's your coach? I want to become a scratch golfer." So he gave me his coach. Got in contact. I worked with him for months, just like I did with tennis. And I was like, before I leave, I want to be a scratch golfer. He made me a scratch golfer. And just like some of the best experiences that I've had in golf, some of the best people that I've met, some of the best conversations that I've had. I always tell stories of I had flings in golf because I would be the only woman. I'd be the only person who would show up to a golf course just as a single. I get paired up with like any group, and I had the best conversations. And then I never talked to them again. We never kept in
Mhm.
touch. But there were like these one nights, there were like these one day flings of like just great experiences, great conversations, and it was because of our connection through golf. So I forever am just so thankful to Vegas, and when I left, I'm such a sap. When I left Vegas, I even, like, wrote a love letter to Vegas of, like, and I wrote it out and I posted it, like, way back in the day when I moved, but it was, like, just like, "You forever have my appreciation, you forever have my heart, and here are the reasons why," and I just hope that other people get to experience you the way that I did. Whew, I'm gonna go
Do I assume not that I wanna see a copy of it, but you still have that letter, right? You kept
I
that.
do, I would have to look for it, but I'm pretty sure that I do, yeah.
That's amazing that you did that. By the way, Daniel Negreanu has now come up like 2 or 3 times on this show. So when we were talking about doing this show, Pamela, when I invited you onto the show, you mentioned, "Hey, maybe one day we can like co-host a show together." Which, by the way, I don't even know that I ever got back to you. That's a great idea. You know who would be a really cool guest who it sounds like you know pretty well?
Yeah, yeah,
Daniel Negreanu. I'm
Daniel
just saying.
Negreanu. I'm pretty sure he would be. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players in the poker industry that I'm still on friendly terms with that I could reach out to. Absolutely.
I think Daniel's one of those guys that I think for people who were getting into poker around like the Chris Moneymaker days in those early 2000s, I feel like back then Negreanu was one of those first faces that they sort of identified with and looked up to and things of that nature. Anyway,
And
just
he also likes to sports bet because he's a big
oh,
hockey buff.
that's right. I heard that. I saw that on maybe Twitter or something like
Canadian
a year
who
ago.
became an American citizen, but he's still tied to his Canadian NHL ways. So you see him post some pics every now and then related to the NHL league.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Well, maybe that's a project we'll tackle together. You've stayed on with me for almost 70 minutes now. I really appreciate your time. Before any final words, any final thoughts? I love how you just laid out your story, but also kind of wove in some of the practical skills that people can kind of utilize to empower themselves and kind of move themselves to tackle their own goals. But any final words in that regard?
Well, I do know that you had sent me a question earlier that was something that people don't know about you.
Oh,
Um,
that's right.
and I do want to say this because I think it's very important, and it's I do escape every now and then. I go into isolation modes. You see somebody like Aaron Rodgers who says that he needs to do like 5 days of like darkness, whatever. I kind of do the same, and I 100% know where he's coming from because I like to, even if it's one night, go to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. I take my I have I take big stacks of books with me and I just read, and I put on my headphones and I just give myself alone time. And I think it's really important for people to give yourself the time you need to appreciate yourself, to re educate yourself, to do the things that it is that you love. Me time is not selfish. Me time is so important, and that is how you keep your head on straight. That is how you are able to be a better husband, a better wife, a better partner, a better friend, a better employee, because you have given your brain the things that it needs to be refreshed in order to become stronger for tomorrow.
I absolutely love that. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I don't think anybody really thinks of that because they're so caught up with just life in general and just kind of like pushing forward. You do need to take that time to just kind
Yeah.
of reset. I think it's that's really interesting, especially with the timing of the Aaron Rodgers stuff. I think
Yeah.
people look at him as like a weird dude, but it's like, and I don't know exactly what's involved with what he's doing,
Right.
but the
But when
point
he
of it
said
is the
that
same.
when he said that, it really resonated with me because I was like, "I've been doing that forever." And I had actually just done that during when we had no power. I was like, "I'm out." And I got a cabin in the middle of nowhere. I took 2 stacks of books and I read for 2 days straight. And I came back like, "Oh man, I needed that." And maybe
Mhm.
you can't do like a 1 night, 2 night thing, but give yourself a couple of hours and just like go off into, I don't know, to the lake somewhere, go for on a hiking trail, go whatever, some place where it can be just you, yourself, and I. Even if it's just a bath, give yourself a 30-minute bath of just you, your headphones, a nice book, whatever it is that you like to do. If it's polishing your nails, or if it's like, I don't know what guys like to do, play chess. My best friend likes to play chess. Play chess. Like give yourself alone time for whatever duration that you're allowed, that you're able to.
Pamela, thank you so much. That is a great way to leave it. Everybody, you can catch all of Pamela's stuff, or at least most of it, at Yahoo Sports, of course. And you can catch her on Twitter at Pamela M35. What does the 35 stand for?
That's just my favorite. It's been my favorite number since, like, junior high. I've never let it go. It's like
Do you
my lucky
do you
number.
bet it? Because my favorite number is 33, and I bet it in roulette like all the time. Is that like a number you put a lot of chips on when you're in Vegas?
I actually don't do
Or no?
roulette. I do
Ah,
craps. I am a craps girl. Yeah,
I love it.
my grandfather used to have my grandfather is a musician, and so he used to have a underground crap studio, and so me and my family have been playing craps since I was a child.
Well, craps is really fun. Roulette's fun too. So it's at Pamela M35 on Twitter and it's Football Fit 35 on Instagram. Pamela, this was even better than I expected it to be, and I expected it to be great. So thank you for your time. And I
Thank you.
think at some point, whether it's Daniel Negreanu or not, let's co-host a show together on Sia Nejad Sports and
Let's do it.
see what we can do.
Yeah, and if anybody ever has any questions, my DMs are always open.
That's awesome. Appreciate you for that. All right, Pamela. Thanks so much.
Thank you.